For thousands of years, the Vancouver area was home to Native people who flourished on the bounty of forest and river. If you don't know the story of how Vancouver began, please visit the fort in the National Park Service's Visitor Center, or explore the rich story of the city's origin through books at the Historic Museum or the Fort Vancouver Library. The foundation of Vancouver's economic health and quality of life is its rich heritage. This was a happening place to be before San Francisco or Seattle began to emerge. Through the combined services of the city, the state, property owners, concerned citizens, and the National Park Service, we have preserved our history. And our history lives on through the compelling stories of our downtown and the architectural treasures of times past. Esther and Amos Short had a claim on the land where the ferry landed and allowed for a hotel and restaurant to open, starting what we now know and love as downtown Vancouver. An anchor to the revitalization in downtown Vancouver is Esther Short Park. The park was part Amos and Esther's large and disputed land claim. There were many court and other battles over the land claims in early Vancouver. At one time, the Hudson's Bay Company sent 5 men to discuss the land claim with Amos Short. A gunfight ensued, and only 3 men returned. Esther Short gave the park to the city in 1853. The Academy is hugely important as the starting place of the Providence medical system and the crowning achievement of Mother Joseph. The buildings and grounds of the Providence Academy are located in downtown Vancouver near I-5. Begun in 1873, the complex was intended to serve as a boarding school, orphanage, and headquarters for the Sisters of Charity of the House of Providence. The main building, commonly referred to as the Academy itself, was designed and constructed by Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart.
I was able to convince a good businessman, Mr. Hidden, if you will start a brickyard, others too will build of brick. He was a good brickmaker. I know because I inspected every brick that went into my building. Providence guided my hands while I drew the plans, especially while designing the chapel, which would house statues of the saints, many of them designed by me, carved by me. This was to be my outstanding architectural achievement. Providence Academy, which we began in 1873. The tallest building north of San Francisco. A very imposing 3.5-story brick building sitting high on the hillside of Vancouver overlooking the Columbia River. Its tall spire housed a beautiful bell that rang at sunrise, noon, and again at dusk for over 50 years. And that spire served as a beacon for the ships going up and down the channel. Oh, it is a jewel, my academy.
The Providence Academy is one of the most significant pieces of historic architecture in the Northwest. It is a substantial brick building executed in a pleasing colonial-based design. In choosing a location for the Academy, the sisters selected a site which commanded a full view of the town of Vancouver and the Columbia River below. Practically and aesthetically, the Academy grounds were once as important as the main building. Not only were there working gardens, orchards, and functional outbuildings such as a laundry and root cellar, but walkways, patios, and carefully selected trees and planting gave the institution an attractive park-like setting. The Lowell and Foster Hidden houses, situated side by side in downtown Vancouver, are built entirely of brick manufactured by the Hidden Brick Company. The Lowell Hidden House, designed by Lowell's brother Oliver Hidden, was erected in 1884 in the Queen Anne style. The residence has a number of strictly decorative elements which contribute to its Queen Anne character. Stained glass windows, corbelled chimney caps, jigsaw barge boards, and brackets in the gables, ornamental corbelling, and patterns of coal-tarred brickwork add distinction to the exterior. Next door, local architect A.E. Davis designed a two-story Georgian Revival style home for Lowell's son Foster in 1913. Like the Lowell Hidden House, this residence displays a number of finely executed details which underline its architectural quality. The exterior walls are laid up in a Flemish bond, and the gabled roof is still covered with its original slate shingles, retrieved from Vancouver barracks. A dent-tiled wood cornice and hooded dormers decorate the roofline. Windowsills, string courses, and coins are of sandstone. A columned portico with a balustered deck forms the formal front entry, and a similar arrangement encloses a screened porch on the east facade. In the early 1870s, Vancouver's Sisters of Providence, a pioneer religious order whose mission in the Northwest began in 1856, were finalizing plans for a grand new convent, orphanage, and school. The sisters, however, were sorely in need of a suitable building material. It is believed that Mother Joseph herself convinced Lowell Hidden to establish a brick manufactory. Hidden chose a location about 7 blocks from the House of Providence construction site, on 15th and Main Streets near several of Vancouver's many clay pits. The company turned out 300,000 bricks in a single season for the 3-story building. 10 years later, the Hidden Brick Company signed another large contract with the church. Under it, they supplied 2/3 of the brick from St. James Cathedral, a handsome Gothic structure situated kitty-corner from the Hidden family complex on 13th and Washington. The company modernized in 1905 when Foster and Oliver took over the business. Interestingly, the Hidden houses demonstrate both the company's early hand-molded bricks used in the 1884 Lowell Hidden House and the later machine-made bricks used in the 1913 Foster Hidden House. The Elks Lodge was constructed in 1910 to 1911, and it's the only structure built for a fraternal organization still standing in Vancouver. Located on the corner of Evergreen Boulevard and Main Street, the Elks Lodge is a well-maintained structure that has preserved much of its original detailing. The structure itself is visually notable, particularly in Vancouver. The building is well-balanced, and the detailing of the upper stories is skillfully accomplished. Indeed, it is one of the most ornamental structures in the city. The building is also a good example of the era's eclectic architectural spirit. Though partially altered, the structure remains a pleasant reminder of Vancouver's heritage. The Vancouver Elks Building is significant for documenting the role of fraternal organizations in the growth and development of Vancouver. Through much of the late 18th century and early 19th century, fraternal organizations were a prerequisite for a community and provided much of the spirit, pride, and entertainment in these towns. The 1912 U.S. National Bank building is significant for being the earliest large commercial structure erected in the city of Vancouver. The bank is an attractively detailed building and is one of the most architecturally distinguished structures in Vancouver's central business district. As soon as the structure was completed, its tenants included attorneys, physicians, dentists, accountants, insurance agencies, and various other professionals. The importance of this building to Vancouver's professional community is evidenced by the fact that it was fully occupied for almost 40 years. By 1934, the building had been sold to the Clark County National Bank, which was affiliated with the U.S. National Bank of Portland, which occupied the bank until 1950. The building became known as the Ford Building during World War II. After 1950, the building was practically vacant on all floors. City Councilwoman Pat Gelada has researched Vancouver history her whole life and has amassed a number of great stories. She has published a number of books on Vancouver, including Darkness Next Door, a collection of ghost stories. There is even a ghost story about the Heritage Building.
I'm Pat Gelada, and I'm in the lobby of the Heritage Building at 6th and Main Street, which used to be the U.S. National Bank. Behind me is the stairway from the lobby to the mezzanine, and that's where the ghost was seen in this building. More than once he was seen. No one could figure out why in the world there would be a ghost in a bank, coming up to look after his money. But in 1925, a young man named Joyce Thomas decided to rob the bank. 1920s were a lawless time. It was Prohibition. We were in hard times. The Depression had really hit us worse than it had hit anyone else because our brewery was out of business, our lumber industry was down, everybody was out of work, and it was really tough. Population had dropped. It was between wars, so the barracks were also low. He came in to hold up the bank, and unfortunately for him, someone else in the bank had a gun, and he was shot as he ran toward the stairs. He staggered back out, ran north up Main Street, where he collapsed. He lived on for almost a week before he died from the gunshot wounds. And from that time, the man in rough work clothes is seen on these stairs. Maybe he's still trying to figure out what went wrong in the robbery. The building's now on the Historic Register, of course, and it's been divided up into wonderful offices, but the south side of the building was all U.S. National Bank. The other side of the building was Diederik's Bootery and Shoes. This was a busy, busy corner in 1925 when Joyce Thomas made his fatal decision.
If this building had not been rehabilitated, the story would not likely be told and would eventually be lost. Historic buildings and properties are the cornerstone of Clark County heritage and culture. They are the legacy of the spirited settlers and residents who shaped the land and the history of the region. Older buildings showcase unique architectural styles and technical innovations. They are also a symbol of the pioneers' creativity and ingenuity. Today, preservation of these historic structures is also an integral part of the city's future. Preservation efforts can rejuvenate commercial districts, enhance livability, and inspire others to save the significant sites in their neighborhoods and towns. Well-preserved buildings are also a source of community pride.
It was the ugliest building in downtown Vancouver, that's what my wife said, when we saw it 2 years ago. And then we kind of peeked underneath the mansard roof and saw there were some gems underneath there. Some finials and some gingerbread and things that had been knocked off. And so we went back to the Historical Society of Vancouver and found that they had some pictures of the old Columbian newspaper building in 1928. And so we could tell underneath that facade, you know, there was a cherished building. And so I'm pleased it came out the way we thought.
Owing to its national significance, the Fort and Historic Reserve was designated a National Historic Monument by Congress on June 19, 1948. In 1961, its size was expanded and renamed Fort Vancouver National Historic Site. Extensive archaeological documentation of the Fort Vancouver site has provided a significant body of information for the interpretation and reconstruction of the fort and reserve. Buildings reconstructed to date include the Chief Factor's House, bakery, blacksmith shop, central stores, and fur storage facility. Reconstruction is the term we use to refer to the historic preservation projects when archaeological evidence and historic records are used to build a life-size replica of the lost resource. The fort is a great example of reconstruction. Today, the fort and reserve are the heart of Vancouver's cultural tourism programs, attracting over 500,000 people each year. Tourism is just one way in which preservation benefits the city. Studies have shown that tourists seeking cultural resources stay longer and spend more money. But what's even better is that it's not fake. The fort, Officers Row, the Native American practices are real parts of Vancouver's past and future. By comparison, amusement parks, water slides, and petting zoos seem phony. At the time of its construction in 1928, the Evergreen Hotel was carefully sited in the center of the city. The local newspaper, the Columbian, reported, "The new Evergreen Hotel is located on what is almost without question the most strategic piece of ground that could have been chosen for its purpose. Squarely upon the junction of the main arteries of the Pacific and Evergreen Highway it sits." The Evergreen Hotel is a 5-story concrete structure, finished in a cream color, complemented by the red Spanish tile roof. At the second and fifth floor levels are marble balconies and ornamental marble window surrounds. The white marble balconies with their casement windows and sculptured railings add a look of classic elegance to the structure. On the Main Street elevation is a decorative parapet with a series of corbelled arches along the roofline. The restoration of the hotel's exterior gave much consideration to the original appearance of the building. Inside the Main Street entrance is a highly buffed red tile corridor. This spacious hallway includes such features as the main staircase with its broad stairs winding up to the mezzanine, an intricate grille pattern on the elevator doors, and 2 old-fashioned phone booths. Beyond this corridor to the right is a lounge area. Its high, small-paned windows are partly concealed behind rich burgundy velvet drapes and stand some 15 feet above the floor. On the opposite side of the room is a balcony, which provides an overall view of the lounge. The balcony is in 3 sections, each delicately railed. Massive open beams cross the lofty ceiling, and an immense chandelier crafted in dark metal with 5 gold lamps is suspended from the center of the room. On the west side of the grand lounge room are 3 recessed arches, rising 20 feet high. In the center of this arch is a large bevel-edged Roman arched mirror resting atop a massive fireplace. The Vancouver Telephone Building is historically significant for its association with the development of its telecommunications industry in Clark County. Built from 1934 to 1935 and designed by a prominent Seattle architectural firm, the building was the first structure designed exclusively to house the city's telephone exchange. For 50 years, the building served in that capacity and is today the only surviving structure associated with the company's early history. The Vancouver Telephone Building is among the most distinguished examples of modernistic design in the county, combining highly decorative brickwork and unglazed terracotta ornament in a design that is at once classical and modern, suggesting both the civic importance of the telephone company and the role it played. The decorative use of brick was an acknowledgement of both the functional aspects of a telephone exchange and the financial constraints imposed by the Depression. Neither strictly Art Modern nor Art Deco in style, the building is an original interpretation of the modern influence of the period. Less original examples of modern architecture for the period in Vancouver include the streamlined modern Pepsi Bottling Company building and the classical modern Clark County Courthouse. J.P. Kiggins won Vancouver, Washington's mayoral race in 1920. Over the next quarter century, Kiggins made indelible marks upon Clark County not only politically, but also structurally. Of the several remaining historic buildings he sponsored in downtown Vancouver, none serves to preserve Mayor Kiggins' place and time so well as the theater that bears his name. Mayor Kiggins retained the services of the noted local architect, Day Hilborn, to design a motion picture theater to grace Vancouver's Upper Main Street. Always a proponent of self-promotion, the mayor named the new movie house for himself, eschewing the usual stereotypical names borne by many theaters in small cities. Hilborn planned a movie house that was distinctively different from the lavish motion picture palaces which became increasingly ordinary in the 1930s. Hilborn's vision combined the graceful curvature of Art Deco, the simplicity of smooth surfaces, and the strength and safety of the emerging concrete construction techniques. Local trade and craftspeople were contracted to undertake construction that was completed in the spring of 1936. Clark County's population tripled during the 1940s. The Kiggins hosted thousands of new patrons who lived temporarily in Vancouver while they worked in military-related industries during World War II. While many first-run features graced the screen, the matinee tradition began for Vancouver's youth. Public schools bulged with increased enrollment. With recreational opportunities scarce, theaters like the Kiggins offered safe outlets for young people to spend increased, unsupervised leisure time. After the war, the Kiggins competed with television as a source of entertainment. However, Vancouver's limited amusement and recreational options allowed the downtown movie theater to remain busy through the early 1950s. Protecting the past requires action and involvement from all of us. A variety of federal, state, and local programs are also available to help us preserve the historic buildings in our communities. Technical assistance and support are provided by the National Park Service, Washington State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, Clark County, and the City of Vancouver. Various benefits are available to individuals who choose to nominate a historic property to the county, state, and national registers. The National Register of Historic Places provides certain tax benefits to property owners, as does the Clark County Heritage Register, which also grants limited legal protection to the properties. Properties listed on the Washington Heritage Register receive only honorary recognition. When it comes to making structural changes during a building's rehabilitation, property owners may be granted greater flexibility under the Historic Building Code and may qualify for special rehabilitation funds. To register your historic property, contact Clark County's Community Planning Department or the City of Vancouver's Department of Review Services. Preservation experts can help you review the various listing requirements and begin the process for nomination to the Historic Register. To secure a historic site's nomination to any of the registers, you'll be asked to fill out an application and provide a variety of background material including the property's date of construction, a statement of the property's significance, a description of its architectural features, information about the property's early owners, and new and old photographs. Where are old photos and records found? Many of them can be found in the research library of the Clark County Historic Museum on Main Street.
In our research library, we have a lot of resources for people who own a home or are looking at renovating a historic structure that'll be a business. So we do have tips on how to register your house, information on homes that are already listed. We have the Clark County Survey and other items like that available.
Every great city has a strong, healthy downtown. It is important for Vancouver to have a vibrant downtown where people can gather through the region to live, work, shop, and enjoy entertainment options. We are diversifying and rebuilding the downtown's economy by partnering in $200 million of mixed-use, residential, and retail development, as well as public art and public spaces.